right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another edition of How I Fucked Up. I'm your host, Andrew Gall, Executive Creative Director at Copacino Fujikato out here in Seattle. Very excited today to have a distinguished guest, my good friend Luis Tito Ramirez. We work together at Ogilvy, Chicago. Tito has since gone on to a different and equally, if not more exciting job. He's done a lot of amazing things in his career. He's won a lot of awards. He's one of the most respected creatives I think I've ever met, and excited to
Thank you. That's flattering. So thank you for that.
that's what we do on the show. I only have guests on that I really like, and I want to hear about his fuck ups because I think the listeners would enjoy it. And so I'll let him tell a little bit about himself. But this is Luis Tito Ramirez. Thank you for joining us today.
No, and thank you so much for the invitation, Andrew. I really feel honored to be here. And actually, it's funny. I don't know when this is coming out, but for people hearing, it's April 1st. So I just had Molly McCarthy, a planner that worked with us at Ogilvy. She just joined WOW, the agency that I'm right now. I say, oh, I'm doing this podcast with Andrew. And when? No, tomorrow is, it's April 1st. It's like, oh, maybe it's a whole joke. It's a whole April Fool's Day. And maybe by the title of this, maybe he's just pranking me. But no, it's real and it's going live. So
It's
thank
real.
you for having me.
Yeah. Well, I kept you waiting like 10 minutes, so you probably even thought even more.
I actually thought it was the big April Fool's Day. But that's the good thing about being in-house is that we leave early. We don't have to worry about staying at the office or anything like that. So
I'd love to
great,
talk to you more about in-house and what your experience has been specifically. So when we met, we were both at Ogilvy Chicago. You were at Ogilvy Colombia before that. Can you talk a little bit about your journey, how you got to the US work in advertising?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I studied I studied in Bogota, Colombia. And I actually studied social communication. But at that point, you could pick like your major, and my major was advertising. And there were like different like basically all the colleges are in Colombia, are most likely in Bogota, at least from an advertising perspective. I think it has grown a little bit more. Uh, and I'm just saying that because they were doing like this advertising kind of you would go against different colleges. They will go give you a brief, and you will go and present your campaign and that. So we were lucky enough to win a couple of times, and with that, I got an invitation from a small agency called Silva Publicidad, which was like an independent agency. They're still there, and they invited me to be like a trainee. So I was there, and from there, I moved to Mullenlow. I was lucky enough to do like a good work in Mullenlow, and then I moved to Ogilvy. And at Ogilvy, basically the pitch was to run the Coca-Cola accounts, but it was what they call the flavors and the local heritage brand. So as you will think, like if Frescolita is you can only buy it in Venezuela. Inca Cola, you can only buy it in Peru. Premium, you can only buy it in Colombia. The rest of the brand, Sprite, Fanta, Coca-Cola, and so on, you can find all over the world. So I started my career at Ogilvy doing these local heritage brands and the flavors accounts. Then we were lucky enough to do a really good work with Coca-Cola. I think one of the goals was to make it advertiser of the year. We managed to do it like at a regional level and at a national level in Colombia. And with that, I was part of a program called Adopt a Country within the Ogilvy network. And it was just basically like a whole network thing trying to connect talent. So the whole thing was I was connected with someone from Ogilvy, Mexico, that I would have to learn the operation and the site that they were working on the Ogilvy network in Mexico, and they will have to learn everything about the business in Colombia. And then we met everybody, like in Cartagena, in Colombia, people from Argentina, Brazil, all the different countries that make part of the Latin Center of the Latin network. And there I had the exposure with Miles Young, which is the CEO of the company, and with someone named David Levy, that at that point was the global like talent person, right? Long story short, I was running the Coca-Cola account. It went really well. I had exposure to these people. I got a call from an agency in Chicago called, now I forgot the name. But anyway, they do a lot of experiential work, and they were doing a lot of experiential work for Coca-Cola at the time. So they called me and they were like, hey, we want you as a creative director. We're doing a lot of experiential stuff. We want you to come here. So I quit and I went back to Ogilvy and I quit. And funny enough, they told me, yeah, I mean, it's great. What are you doing? No, I'm going to work for Coca-Cola, this account, experiential in the US, in Chicago. And one of the people or one of the persons that was part of the Adopt a Country program. Okay, so I should go back. And they offered me to be the lead of that program.
Because you told them you were leaving.
So I was just basically like, yeah. So I was the president of that program. And then I quit. So someone who wanted to be the lead of that program heard that I was leaving. So he emailed the talent director, the global talent director, Ogilvy, like, hey, I heard Tito is leaving Ogilvy. I would like to take the role of the director of the Adopt a Country program. So this guy emailed me like, hey, what do you mean that you're leaving and you haven't even sent me an email? And I'm like, well, I didn't think it was necessary. I've seen like Ogilvy it's really hard to move talent between the networks at that point. We're talking 2013. And he told me, I mean, we wouldn't be a global network if we're not able to move you to somewhere. And so where are you moving? I'm moving to Chicago to do this, whatever it is. And he's like, okay, let me make a call. He made a call. And then I was in front of our friend and boss, Joe Sharota. He comes into a room and he's like, so what do you want? And I'm like, well, no, I want to do this. My name is this, that. No, what do you want? When do you want to come here? And like, I don't know, February. No, you don't want to come here in February. It's too cold in February. Just make it April. And then he left the room. Okay, this is the shortest job interview I had in my life. I didn't have to do anything. And then at some point, what I realized is that he thought I was going just to do like a 2 months or a summer program. So I moved my whole life. And then it's like, oh, you're going to be here for 2 months. I'm like, no. This is like a life decision. So I guess they had to get me there, and they have to accept me for the rest of the 13 years that I spent at Ogilvy. But that was a little bit the story how I got here. So it was just like a series of events of this person heard about that I was leaving. I didn't think I was getting the job. So he asked me to do this. Then this person like Joe, decided to bring me in. So I was here, and that's where I met you. And that's where we managed to work together. I was mostly working on the SC Johnson account, and you were working mostly on the Hobbies account.
Yeah, well, I'm laughing because I could just picture Joe doing that, and it's so funny. It's so funny to me.
It's the fastest interview I ever had, and he was like, "Hey, I want to do that," and you know how he mumbles. He's like, "You want to do that? Okay, bye.
Okay, see you in April." It's so great.
And I'm like, "Okay, who do I have to? Who do I follow up? How am I moving my life? If I need a visa, who's giving me a visa? What's my title? What am I doing? You know, like there were like a lot of these moving parts But again, in a really Joe way, he was really supportive, and nowadays I can tell that he's not only a friend, but probably not only one, if not the person who has impacted my career the most. And I consider him like a great mentor. So I always be grateful for him.
It. You know? Did you always have designs on coming to the States to do advertising?
You know, like. As you can tell, because of my accent, I studied on a British school all my life.
Could tell.
That's a bad joke. But no, so my dad really early in Colombia, my dad thing is like, okay, you need to learn another language because that's going to open doors. So I studied all my life in a British school, but obviously the English that you learn is just basic English. But again, all my math, physics, chemistry, everything was in English. So obviously I cannot have that, but I was doing like a really decent career. I was doing really well in Colombia. I was like climbing and I never thought about it. Actually, one of my really good friends, Santiago Cortez, he right now he's the CEO of BML Mexico City. He was my account person at Mullenlow, and he left the company for Ogilvy when Ogilvy won the Coca-Cola business. And again, it's all like I think I have been really lucky. I was working with his wife. Then his wife came to work at Mullenlow. We were running the Unilever account. I was running Axe. We were in a shoot for Axe, and he came to pick her up for something. And he told me like, "Hey, I'm looking for a copy for Ogilvy for the Coca-Cola account." And like, well, why don't you just bring me here, right? I'm interested. And he's like, "Oh, I thought you would never leave Mullenlow, but okay, if you want it, the job is yours. Like, let's don't talk about it." And then years later, he moved from Ogilvy, Colombia to Ogilvy, New York, and then to Ogilvy, Japan. And then when he was in Ogilvy, New York, he told me like, "Hey, we're working with this experiential agency in Chicago. They're looking for a creative director. Do you want me to throw your name in there?" But at that point, I never thought. I guess when I got the Coca-Cola account, is what like one of those dream accounts where you're in college.
For sure.
And I was okay. If I'm gonna work for Coca-Cola, that's gonna give me exposure to work outside, and we managed to create some campaigns that then were implemented around the world from Colombia. So that's now if you go anywhere, there's Colombians everywhere. You know, like we just invaded, and there's really good creative talent in Colombia from Colombia all over the world. But at that point was a little bit like I was lucky that my friend recommended me. I got the job, and then all these series of events happen, and I'm here. But I never thought about it, to be honest. Like my brother is an architect. He lives in Minneapolis, and I would visit him every summer. But I never saw myself in the American life, and now I love it. I love the I miss the chaos from Latin America, but I love how things working here. So it's just like a yin and yang between chaos and
Yeah,
organized
absolutely.
chaos.
Well, it's funny too to hear about your journey because even though it's international and it wasn't something you were necessarily looking for, it's the same everywhere. Where it's like somebody, you keep in touch with somebody, you enjoy that person enjoyed working with you, and then you just never know because it's like it's not the same. But moving to Chicago from Seattle, like a couple times back and forth now, and it's like I never really thought I would do that, but kind of went where the opportunities were, and it was because I had network built up or people that were like, "Hey, I'm going to put this in your head. Is it something you'd be interested in?" And then it forces you to think about it differently. It forces you to be like, "Oh, gosh, maybe I do want to live in Chicago and work on this account with this person, or because this person recommended me." So you just did it on a much bigger scale.
I was lucky, but again, I think to your point, sometimes I feel like these new generations don't realize how important is networking and talking to people and getting to know people and and having experience, but especially burning moments and there's a difference between burning bridges and burning chapters in your life. I believe like there's a moment that you need change, and okay, you burn that chapter. It's time to move, but always leave your doors open because you never know when you need to go back. You never know what's gonna connect you. And I think like nowadays kids, they just there's no loyalty in terms of they just go for what it works for them, and I admire that. My dad, for instance, he worked 50 years, no, like 30 years for the same company, and I was like, oh, that's a lot of time to be in the same company. But then when I thought I would never leave Ogilvy, and I still like I still wear red glasses, so I think that says the Ogilvy red, I think. But I still cheer for them. I still want them to be Network of the Year. Every time they win an award, I'm super happy for them. Every time they win an account, I'm happy for them. But and again, it's these connections that we have made that's what
Absolutely.
made it.
I mean, it's testament that an agency of that magnitude that's global, it's like it still affects you on a personal level if you're with the right people in it, and it's like we have this text train that we're part of that's like a dozen people that we all work together,
Yeah.
and then I have like another smaller one where we just talk trash about you basically, but it's like 5 or 6. So it's like I've got these threads going for
No,
years and years now. It's great.
it's years and years, and it's funny because Molly McCarthy, as he was as I was saying, I think she was having dinner with our friend
Oh,
Annie
nice. Yeah,
yesterday. So it's all these connections that you make, and again, I think like at that point you spend a lot of time in the agency, so it become like your
absolutely.
family. I think I could have, just to go to the name of your podcast. They told me at the beginning, pick any city in the U.S. and so I talked to the CEO of the company, Mauricio Arriga, the CEO of the company in Colombia. He said, "Well, the one that makes more profit is Ogilvy, Washington, because that's PR, but that's all politics. Then New York is the headquarters, and then Chicago is like this cell that is doing really good work. I'm like, okay, New York, that probably is going to be a fuck up because there's a lot of competition. There's like a lot of pressure into that office. I met Joe a few years before, but he didn't remember me, that we talked to each other. I actually came to the office many years ago before I moved, and I remember him having like the Stanley Cup or a replica of the Stanley
Of
Cup
course.
in his office, and I had a conversation with him. He doesn't remember we had that conversation at all, but I like what I saw at the agency. I saw that they had one of the things that struck me the most and that I liked the most was the blackboards all around the
For
office,
sure.
and I was seeing like post-its. I went, okay, this seems like a really collaborative space. Seems like everybody here is just setting up each other for success. There's no egos. There's nothing. So when they came the time to move, I was okay. I remember really, really well the blackboards and everything. And I went, okay, I want to go there. And I was lucky that you, Chris, Dave, everybody was like really warm, and they had like such a good way to accept people into this group that you guys have already established. You guys were doing amazing work. But yeah, again, I think lucky. I landed in the right spot at the right moment when everything was happening, and again, it's lucky, and I'm glad I didn't fuck it up and going to New York, because that would have been a complete
Yeah.
different story.
Yeah, and well, it's hard to know until you kind of got to go with your gut, right, to make that decision, because it's like
Yeah.
interviewing's hard whether you're the one on the other side of the table or you're the interviewee. It's really hard, and so it's like you kind of got to go on vibes and what your gut says. So
Yeah.
so I'm glad you didn't fuck that one up. What
Yeah.
what did you
I'm glad
fuck
too.
up at Ogilvy though? What do you have anything specific come to mind of mistakes that you made and things you learned from?
It's interesting. So from Ogilvy, I actually was in Seattle, July 4th, 3 years ago. I received a call from a recruiter, and they were like, "Hey, Whirlpool Corp is opening an in-house agency, and they're looking for a creative director for KitchenAid. Like, I love cooking. That's my account. This is the right moment. I'm ready to do it." And then in the interview process, they say like, "No, actually, they don't want you for KitchenAid." I'm like, fuck, that's the job that I wanted. They're like, "No, they want you to run the whole creative IMC department."
New
Like,
department, right?
still get to working. Yeah, yeah. At that moment, I was running IMC, and there was another one person, like upper funnel, lower funnel. I was doing all upper funnel. Someone was doing lower funnel. And I was like, can I still get to work on KitchenAid? And they were like, "Yeah, heck yeah." That's just to say that I came into Whirlpool. We put this agency together, but what we have from Whirlpool is like a really established um, performance review, right? It's really by level. You have a mid-year, you have a beginning of the year setting objectives, then you have a mid-year conversation, and at the end, you have like a performance review saying, okay, you hit these objectives, these metrics, you're ready for the next role, and things like that. So it's really like really corporate America, but it's really good. So the reason why I'm saying this today, I was talking to one of my creatives, and young creatives always like, no, I want to be an ACD, I want to be a CD. But then you ask, do you know what's the role? You want the title or you want the role, right? this goes back. The big fuck up in my career was trying to think that I needed to be a creative director before I was 30 or when I was 30. And I was telling that story today because I was thinking about your podcast, and I was telling this story to my creative today. Is when I became a creative director, you don't realize the amount of pressure that and I wasn't just creative director, it was group creative director. So then from a moment you're responsible from yourself for doing work, and it's like this, you're responsible
Right.
of 12 people and their careers and their output and their thing. You're getting like a lot of pressure in this side, and now you need to put pressure to those people. And the reality is that I was just so in the rush to be a creative director, to have that title, to have like that rush to be like really fast and really successful really fast, that I shortened the times of knowledge or that I needed to learn, or the learning curve. And that just puts an impressive amount of pressure, not only on your body, on your mental health, but also like the that work-life balance that we sometimes we talk and we tend to separate, but then you realize it's just one, is life, and that's it. Was a mess, was a complete mess, and that was a result of putting myself a pressure that I didn't need it. And that made me realize, okay, one thing is having the thrive and the will to get somewhere, but putting the pressure to get at a certain role at a certain age, and especially such a young age, is for me is a big fuck up that I had done. Now it helped me, it opened all the doors, and it wouldn't be here if that wouldn't have happened. But yeah, I look back and I'm like, oh, I was really like killing my body. I was really killing my head mentally, and I was not sleeping. It was a lot of pressure. And then you look back and you don't realize that, right? Like, and I tell my creatives a lot, just take it slowly. Like, things are gonna come. Don't rush it. There's like something really beautiful about enjoying being a young creative, not having the responsibility. I also look back and I'm a 30-year-old creative running the Coca-Cola account for Latin America, or the Latin Center division. And I can picture myself going into a meeting room, and I still look like a baby. I look younger than what I am. So I look really young. I guess I didn't need that pressure. I was not enjoying what I was doing. We managed to get Advertiser of the Year in Colombia and in Latin America, and there was no satisfaction at all, right? So you put that pressure, I need to win awards, I need to have this, your life is a mess, and then the satisfaction is like, okay, why am I doing all of this? I guess then when I moved to the US, that was like a...
Did you get to reset a little bit when you came here? Yeah.
Yeah, completely. And you know what made me level set is like I came with a big ego. I'm a creative director. Then you come here, okay, I'm not really a creative director yet. And I remember I'm looking there, and I see Maureen Sheriff. She did the whole Dove campaign. I take my hat off to her. Then with our friend Giovanni, we kept joking with the what's up, and then I will see like this bald guy just putting his head up, and then I ask, and Chuck asked me, "Hey, are you fucking with me?" Like, no, I don't know, like the WhatsApp thing. And then someone told me that he did the WhatsApp spot for Budweiser, and I was like, "Fuck, I respect that. That's what probably one of my favorite ads." And I was just making fun of something, and then you never realize who you have next to you, and that guy is the most humble person and one of the most amazing creatives that I have. And then we have you guys doing an amazing work with Huggies. Then you have Luisandro and Giovanni that just came from BBDO to win after winning every single award in Europe. So it was a little bit of, okay, that you need to level set.
You got humbled,
and now you have to relearn. You're a trainee again, and now you need to learn.
That was never in your head, right? When you came, that just happened because of the circumstances. Going back to what you were talking about, it's like ambition can be really dangerous, because in this business, especially because like you said, as I remember it, like I remember the first time I got in CA, and I was like, oh, hell yeah. And then the next day I was like, who the fuck cares? Like it, like, okay, now what's the next thing? And so
Exactly.
it's like, there's
Exactly.
always a next thing. It doesn't matter. Like your GCD would be ECD. ECD, you want to be CCO. Your CCO, you want to be CCO of a bigger agency, So it's like, how do you make peace with the success that you have the right amount of ambition without absolutely destroying everything else about your life? I think that's like the secret as an advertising creative, right?
I think Sebastian Wilhelm, he used to run this big agency called Santo. He's probably one of my favorite creative in the world. He has done amazing, and he has this whole thing. You have to be a
Mm.
trainee every single day. You need to learn something new every single day. The moment that you're not learning and you're not being with that trainee mentality, you're gonna lose that thrive. You're gonna lose that hunger of doing things, but also you're humble, right? Like you don't know things, and all of the lessons there was like I thought I knew English, right? But then I was writing things and I was getting bounced. And I remember going to Joe's office and say like, "Hey man, I think you made a mistake. I don't know. I can write this shit in English, to be honest." And I remember he sat me and he said like, "I didn't bring you here because you know English. I brought you here because I know your work and I know you can do ideas. Andrew can write it for you. Brooker can write it for you. Vanessa can write it for you. Just write it. Just tell them what you have in your head, and they're gonna help you write." And that also goes back to the ego. That also goes back to being humble, like having to take that shell off and ask somebody, "Hey, can you please check my copy?" And you think you're the successful creative director, and then you're presenting things again for someone to tell you, "Yeah, the grammar here is wrong. Maybe say it this way. The slang should be like this way. Nobody talks like this." It's a whole different
For
learning
sure.
curve, and again, it's being humble again and start from
Being humble,
scratch.
but also you were lucky enough to be in an environment that people like even Joe just saying that they'll help you write it, where it's like we've all been in like cutthroat creative departments where it's not like that, and it's intimidating and it sucks because then there's, it's not a great environment. The work might be good, but at the end of the day, it's not a positive place. And that's, I think, what made Ogilvy so special when we were there is that it was like that. And for you, are you talking about the Kiwi
Was
campaign specifically, or got it?
No, before that, no. When I first got there, I was writing stuff for Mr. Muscle, and again, I had this whole pressure that I need to prove myself. Now I'm here, I need to prove myself, and I was doing a decent work. It was not amazing, but the moment Joe told me that, and I stopped thinking about English, and I started thinking more like with that freedom. That's when everything like exploded, and that's where we started like doing really
Because
really
the
good
Kiwi
work.
stuff was long copy, right?
The Kiwi stuff was long copy.
And that one Lions, right?
That one won a Grand Prix in industry craft
See,
for in there, but I mean that one was a labor of love, and I cannot say I wrote it. Is like Luisandro Elgo wrote a bunch. I wrote some stuff. Joe wrote some stuff. Hital, which was even the art director, he was writing stuff, and then we just put it together. Brooker just made sense of everything. But I remember a weekend, and we were almost ready to go out with the campaign, and it's like, okay, we have the long copy now, and cool. Nobody's doing long copy nowadays, so we have it. But now we need the hook. And I remember it was a Saturday. I don't know why we thought that eating Indian food became our lucky charm. So we were eating Indian food. But anyway, we wrote at least 100 headlines. Everybody just sitting there in the same table. Okay, what about this? 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 And when we had all those headlines, then it was like, okay, things are starting to make a little bit more sense. But again, it was a labor of love, and it's a lot of craft, and it's a lot of sitting down, writing, rewriting, the layouts. I think Hital did at least 100 layouts, and with the boots here, with the boots not here, with Mohammed Ali. Then we needed to go and find the boots and the shoes from all these people. So basically, it's the story of successful people written from their shoes. So it's Mohammed Ali's story, but written from his boxing boots and what those boots have seen. There's also like some shoes from Hermes Hemingway, and just getting those shoes was a whole story, because those shoes were only in Cuba. We had to have like a photographer in Cuba who take the picture, then send us the picture. Like it was a whole thing. But that's just to say that the writing and the crafting after many years have been like a great lesson.
Well, yeah, it just, there's no substitute for that type of work. If like from a craft perspective, like you have to be able to generate a prolific amount of ideas, and you have to be willing to mess around with layouts forever. I mean, and that's something that Ogilvy's ethos was really great about. Yet at the same time, I feel like I had a pretty good work-life balance. So I don't know how that happened, but
But but you know what is interesting? Now in the days of AI, I was reviewing taglines the other day, and and again, now that I speak English better, I get a little bit sense of after living 11 years in the US. I'm saying, okay, I can tell at least 70% of these headlines and these taglines are written by ChatGPT. And they were like, yeah. I mean, obviously we use it to help, but like, yeah, but there's no emotion. There's no human emotion there. There's just a bunch of variations, right? I remember one of my other mentors, which is John Raul Forero, who is the president and CCO of the Colombia right now. He used to tell me the story of his creative director, that he would have to arrive with 100 headlines, and he will count them. And if you have 89, she's like, okay, you're missing 11 more. And John Ray used to do the same with us. He's like, don't come here until you don't have 50 or 70. Because after the 20th, 30th is when you really are going to start writing interesting shit. Same in English, right? So the same I told to my creator, okay, just go and write a bunch, but I don't want to see ChatGPT. And you understand that. I mean, nowadays I understand a little bit more English and the sentiments and the things, and I say I would write it like this. What have you thought about this? And it's better, right? Like,
it's funny that you can just tell now, because I totally we've had some tagline experiences recently, and it's like, yeah, normally I would use it to at least be a jumping off point, but for some of these assignments, it's like, this time it's not going to work, because it's just going to give you the variations, because it's just, it still can't replace us yet.
No, it can't. I mean, at some point he's learning from us and he's going to do it, but that emotion and that vivid experience is just there, and the fun part,
absolutely.
Too,
so let's talk a little bit about your role now. How does it compare to the agency side, going client side? What are your favorite parts of it?
So my favorite part was at the beginning, when I moved to WOW, it was called Project X. And basically, Joe Leatoni, which was the president of Whirlpool Corp at the time, he brought Mike Fries, which another great mentor. I also learned like massive amount from that guy, great respect from him, to open the in-house agency. And basically it was like a simple financial decision, right? Like it was like, I'm paying my agency is X amount of money, but I know half of my creative team is working on pitches, is working on this. What would happen if I bring all that talent in-house? What if I bring planners? What if I bring like social media strategies? What if I bring experience and everybody in-house, and we just have them thinking on the brand the whole time? So that was like a first pitch that was really interesting. But the second one is, okay, I'm going to learn how to open an agency with someone else's money.
Sure.
because that's what it was. It's like, okay, come here. We need to find the culture. What's our culture? What's our name? What's the type of people that we want to hire? So a little bit what when we started was like, let's take what we love about the agencies and let's unlearn what we hate about the agencies. I love Ogilvy. I love every single agency. This is nothing against it, but it was okay. What if there's another way to do things, right? Wow became just because the building that we're located is called the World of Whirlpool, so I just made it wow. But it also gave us a North Star in terms of okay, everything that we do should be wow, or we shouldn't be doing it. Like the first reaction what I have when I see work should be wow. When I started, we were like at least 6 creatives, and now we're like 40 something, 50 creatives. And we have a whole studio content production. Like we grow, like this agency just grow massively. And there has been a lot of changes in within. One of them, like Mike Fries, who was the CCO who hired me. I was running the IMC department. Someone else was running. Nathan McLean was running the lower funnel stuff. The chopper and basically all this amount of work that we do in that sense. But then Mike decided to leave and open his agency, and I got promoted to a role of CCO. So the benefits of being in an in-house agency is that the CMO sits 3 doors or 3 desks away from me, and I report to a CMO of the company. So as the chief creative officer of Wow Studios, I report to Sharon Blakely, which is the VP of marketing for the Whirlpool Major Appliances brand. The other thing that is really good is that we all have the same email. We all are at whirlpool.com. And what that does is that at every single level that you have, from junior, senior, creative director, and everybody, we all have a counterpart in the brand side. We work really tight. So even if you have an idea, you just can send it via chat. If you need to validate an idea with the lawyer, you have the lawyer in the company chat. So in a way, it's a little bit more agile, but what you really do, or what you manage to do, is focus the creatives to become experts on the brands that they're working on. They're not working on from 9 to 5 on the accounts and on the accounts that they're designated to, and then from 5 on a pitch. So you have them a little bit more focused. You're working them really on the times that a company works. So basically, we're just like factory workers. We go 9 to 5, and after 5, everybody goes home, and then we continue the next day. And that's really cool because people are really motivated in terms of okay, I come what I need to do, and then I have a life.
You got more skin in the game when you work for. If you work for the right client side, you feel like you're more of a part of things. And it's a consistent culture.
Again, we all been on those situations that there's really good clients, but some will require you to work on I remember there were always like a brief for Coca-Cola on December 20th. And it's like, okay, who's gonna work over the holidays on this brief, right? But again, that's part of the things, right? But having the CMO is just amazing because we're discussing brands but more from a business perspective. I think creative wise, that we wanted to bring creatives who were really interested on learning about the business. And what is really cool is that the moment that they give the company results and everything is we get them in real time. We're reviewing like campaigns, and we're reviewing sales, and we're reviewing how the products are performing in the marketplace. We're reviewing like how was Q1 in sales compared to Q2. We are in those meetings, and from the senior analyst from the junior creative to the most senior creative, we're having the same conversation in the same room, and we all have access from the same information, right? my bonus and everybody's bonus that working at WOW is attached to the company performance. So you're thinking, okay, I need the company to do well in order to get my bonus, and that just creates like a different mindset in these young creatives. Like, I have creatives that they came in as juniors and they were like really shy, and now you're having like basically marketing discussions with them. It's like, I feel like we all have done like a
I was going to say, it almost feels like it's a business school training ground for the right person.
It's a business school training ground, man, and it's super
have you
cool,
seen creatives that have come and then said, this isn't what I signed up for, I just want to go make cool work? Or is it more likely that because of the culture that you've built, people want to stay and get that MBA with y'all, or is it a bit of a mix?
Look, I want to think that we're doing cool work too. But that was really, it's funny you're saying that, because at the beginning when we were recruiting, some people were saying like, yeah, I want to be on an agency. I don't know if I'm ready to go in-house. Like, but we are an agency. Like, we're doing like the big difference probably is that we're doing full funnel approach, and we have like upper funnel creatives, lower funnel creatives. Now I kind of restructured the department where everybody's doing everything. So we're just cross-pollinating talent a little bit. But a lot of the first reaction when people think about an in-house is like, oh, but I'm just gonna do like really shitty work. But it's the opposite. I think like because of the knowledge that we have for the brands, we put ideas to the service of the business. And again, we have been winning awards. We're starting to win awards. And the same campaigns that are winning awards in creative shows are now finalists on Effie's. And that's great. Like, now it also is the other side. We had like an amazing campaign that we put for Valentine's Day out. It didn't work as it is. And actually yesterday a friend was telling me, yeah, but are you submitting it to awards? Because that I mean, the idea is great and you put it out there. And like, yeah, but it didn't perform the way that we wanted to perform. So we would be hypocrites if we try to put something out there that we know that it didn't hit the business objectives.
That's a grown person's perspective on awards in a very responsible and great way. Because I think like at Copacino, like our North Star is an Effie for that reason, because a lot of our clients are mid-sized brands that they can't afford to waste money on an ineffective advertising campaign. So that's in service of that in terms of how our goals are. Is it, okay, Effie's a goal, like Lion, that'd be great, Pencil would be great, but Effie's really like the North Star for us because of that reason. Because we wouldn't feel comfortable, putting something out if we didn't think it would perform from a business perspective.
Yeah. But look, like we just relaunched a dishwasher, and we found out that because it was a product relaunch, since it wasn't the first time that we were launching them, but it was a relaunch, we had a lot of customer reviews. And the team went and started like looking at customer reviews, and they found like something amazing that is like these customer reviews were written as love letters, right? So, okay, what can we do with that? And they brought up this amazing idea that is, okay, what if we write love songs with those customer reviews?
It's good.
So we did this, we put it in the marketplace, and the idea, the relaunch was a success. It sold. The model that was advertised or showcased in the music video was sold out on our website. It hit the metrics that like it increased the engagement with the brand on social, like by 200%. The positive sentiment went up, but also what it did inside the organization, right? Because now it became like the CEO of the company plays that song for the board of directors in the meetings. That allowed us to do like there's something that is most important than anything for these brands, and is the kitchen and bathroom show. And it's basically a can for kitchen and a bathroom. Like
Yeah.
everybody has their can, and this is like the can for where you go and showcase your products, and this is where you go and actually show the world that, like, okay, this is the innovation that we're bringing. It's in Vegas, it's huge, and we just did like they allow us to design because we've been coming like with really, so we've been building like this trust with the organization. They say, okay, wow, studios, you guys come up with the idea for the booth, and we work like really tight with the CMO. We work really tight with everybody, single part, and we created this whole experience. Like, we were not going to do kitchen vignettes where we just put things. We're just gonna do experience for the brand, and we won on Cheryl Boys on the whole exhibition. Like, the Whirlpool booth was the booth that everybody was talking about. It has the most stock value. People are super engaged with the products. We have retailers reaching out to to check the products, to see all this stuff, right? So again, it's ideas that, and again, would I send that booth to Cannes? Most likely not. Because it's okay. I mean, it's amazing. It's super well designed. It does this. I know it's not going to win in Cannes, but from the objective, from a metrics perspective of what it needed to do on that trade show, it just hit it and knocked it
Well,
out
and
of
what
the
you
park.
talked about from start to finish, I think about what you would have had to go through for an agency to do that. And it's just like there's so many different levels. Like I try to think now about when I'm talking to a CMO or the brand manager that I'm in contact with, and how much of our day we're actually a part of, which is like 5-10%. Like all that other stuff
At
that
10%.
you have visibility to and that you can affect. You know, it painted a picture to me of like what an idea or what like an ethos of an in-house shop can do for a brand, because you can affect so much, and because everything is so much more purposeful and cohesive and all that. So it's really inspiring to hear about.
Look, and it's funny enough, the other day I see like someone requested access to this video, to this file. And okay, I went to see who was. He was the CFO. So I texted the CMO, my boss, and like, hey, what's up with this guy? Like, yeah, I forgot to tell you, he wants to show on the financial results. He wants to show creative.
That's awesome.
Okay, so the CFO of the company is showing creative that we're doing right now. That's a
Totally.
different thing, right? And everybody's super engaged. So again, it's not only how you impact the business, how you impact the trust inside the organization, so you can keep doing more work and better work. And now they're trusting now more. My boss is like, okay, we have presented ideas that I know when she showed them, her bosses have said, we don't get it, but
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah. That's which is the best answer you can
We
get.
trust
Because
guys.
like, yeah, they may not be the market, but they understand that and they trust. So that's a great segue to my question, which is, y'all still work with agencies though, right? You still have agencies on your roster to a degree.
So we do
Mhm.
PR. With PR, we have it with outside vendors or partners. I shouldn't call vendors; it should be partners.
Mhm.
And media. Those are two things that we still have out there. The rest we're doing in house. Obviously, for these trade shows, we work with other companies who are the builders and all this stuff, blah blah blah, PR agencies and so on. But from community management, even we have like a media, a person who is media excellence, and she just looks at the budget optimizations. How can we be idea first, media second? But other than that, everything's in house. Even the production studio, like the first time that I joined Wow Studios, we went to Enton Harbor, which is where the Whirlpool headquarters is, and told me, oh, we're gonna take you to a studio. And I thought, okay, this is gonna be like a small studio where you do like social shoot or anything. It was like a freaking IKEA. And you came in and it was huge, and you had the 3 sets or 2 sets for KitchenAid, 1 set for Jenner, 1 set for Maytag, 2 sets for this. They're all modular, so you can swap video, and you shoot a lot
Mhm.
of content in there, and you shoot a lot of stuff. And they have like, we have amazing directors, amazing content creators. We have editors in house from that. I call it the United Nations, because we have people that have come from Droga 5, Coders, Optimus, Ogilvy, FCV, BVDO. We have people from RGA at some point. People who are coming from other companies from PR agencies also to help us with planning, Leo. So it's been really interesting to see the amount of talent that we have brought, and it's just like everybody's just so I learn every day. We just came back from a corporate retreat
Yeah.
that, as I mentioned, we were in a corporate retreat in Michigan last week, and it was the brand org. So it was all the brand partners, production, creatives, and everybody in a room. Okay, what are we gonna do with the brands? How are we gonna do what's the goals for these years in terms of culture and creative excellence? And you're having all those discussions with all these people at the
Sounds
same time.
amazing. So then what would your advice be to agencies now that you're on the other side, knowing the world and what you've created and how, frankly, agencies probably aren't that valuable to you based on what you've built? What advice would you have to creative agencies who are still looking to be relevant and add value for clients?
Look, I do think, and I think the Ogilvys are always going to be important just because of the global footprint that they can offer. On top of that, they have amazing people and amazing creators, right? But that's what but then they created David.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea what they created David was, okay, we can be a little bit more agile, we can be a little bit more creative, or we can have a smaller, like a small structure that can be dedicated a little bit more. Now, if you think about what networks are, and the same with Leo Burnett, now they have Le Pub, and Le Pub is opening that, but it's like the little boutique that is going to work on special projects, and it's going to do this little thing, but it's project based, right? Now, and I remember I had this conversation with someone when I left, and they told me, but why are you going in-house? And at that moment, they were on a really big pitch for a client. I said, like, how is this different to what you guys are doing with WPP? Because if you think about WPP, Publicis, all these groups, they're pulling talent from all the best agencies that they have, and they create I think Coca-Cola is called Project X or something X, but it's talent from BML, talent from Ogilvy, talent from all different agencies. So it's like a mini in-house agency conformed with all these agencies dedicated to that client. Same in Publicis, they have people from Leo, people from Sachi, people from other working on group X, and they're going to be working for this account, right? So I think the models are shifting. I think the smaller operations that are a little bit more agile, but I think a scope. I think the clients are also trying to get the buck for the money, and that's the reality. I think if you see about the fees, the cutting fees, and all this stuff, it's because they're trying to make the most what that they can. I don't think they have the big budgets to spend. And they're just trying to be agile, and they're trying to be more mindful on how they spend their money, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's happening whether you're Coca-Cola or whether you're, one of our regional clients. It's the same thing. It just might be on a different scale. But it's interesting that what you talked about was all these big conglomerates forming their own little almost indie shops, which is what we are. Yeah. And there's so many indie shops that are really successful right now. So it's really interesting that like there's so many different ways of doing that model. And
it's not only in the US, like AB InBev have this creative excellence program. So one of my friends, he runs Draftline, which is the internal agency for AB InBev. And every here and then they invite me to judge the work that they have like this idea accelerator where they put money and they give a brief to different agencies. The agencies bring them, they pay those agencies for those ideas, and they pay more for the idea that gets selected. But so I get invited to judge these things here and there in Colombia, and there's like agencies that I never heard in my life. And it's a small, and then I dig in, and it's like, oh, is this a small shop? These were these two creatives who used to work at that agency, and now they open these, right? So whatever is happening in the US is happening in Mexico, is happening in Colombia, is happening in Europe, and again, big agencies are going to be there and they're going to exist, and we need them to exist uh, for many reasons. But I think clients are trying to look like someone who is closer
Yep.
to their business. More and more companies are bringing or are building in-house agencies. Like Heinz have the kitchen here in Chicago. Comcast has their own agency. Our friend Isaac Pagan is working on D3
Yep.
on PepsiCo. If you think about Kimberly Clark, which was our previous client, Luis Sanchez, which is potentially one of the most awarded creatives in the world, who used to run Almat BBDO, and then he was running BBDO North America. Now he's the chief creative officer for Kimberly Clark, so he's in charge. I think they either got the chief operating officer away, and they just have like the CMO and
Wow.
the CCO, and they're in charge of the creative excellence of all Kimberly Clark brands. So it's super interesting that the brands are bringing creativity, and they're bringing like creative jobs inside their agencies, inside their businesses. Sorry, as a way, as I say, is
Yep.
efficiencies is one, but also because they want people who are dedicated and thinking 100% of their time on the brands
So
that
what
they're
it tells me
working on.
too is that if you are a creative person who understands the higher purpose, the value that you can bring to a brand is, if you go brand side, is huge, because not only can you think of the big
Yeah,
ideas or find the team that can, but it's always within the service of what it can do for the bottom line, which, how do you argue with that?
yeah. And it's interesting. 10 years ago was the first time that I went to Cannes. I was all
Mm-hmm.
agencies. Uh, Last year I went, and I went. It was the first year that I
Yep.
went as a marketeer. I bought the marketeer badge because I wanted to see the other side, and you can see more and more. Even the panels were more DoorDash
Sure.
in-house agency, Heinz. What is Heinz doing in creativity? But it was like you could see big groups of marketeers walking here and there, and again, you will have the big creatives and all this stuff. But that was the trend. Also, is going to, and now that Cannes has bought Effie. I saw Effie has Cannes now has an Effie training during the week of Cannes
Wow, I didn't
Lions.
know that.
Uh, so you see, marketeers are also there, and the before you have gold, silver, titanium pass. Now you have the CMO Academy, the marketer pass. You have this thing, and is the John Marketeer even. Before it was John Lives, now it's John Marketeer, and you have all this knowledge that they're trying to bring to the organizations. Actually, one of the first things that we did at Wow Studios is we did a partnership with Cannes Lions, to help us create a creative culture, make understand, or put a system in place of how do we achieve creative excellence. And again, the training is amazing because it's not okay, this is how you're going to win in Cannes. It's more like this is what you need to be a successful
Mm,
creative marketeer, and this is the things and the system in place from a marketing organization that you need to have. And they show you case studies from AB InBev, Heineken, other companies that have done this, and they just offer this program to really selected like partners. And so everybody who works at Wow got the
that's
CAN
amazing.
training, and now we did an EFI training last year. So again, it's super interesting
Oh,
in terms of that.
did you get hit up by agencies at Cannes that wanted a piece of your business now?
It's funny because every here and then we hear it. But I think, look, we're working on really big projects right now, and we're working on projects that go from the even from the creation of brand house. And I mean, like, we're just like from the get-go of every single project, we're in there. So it's
Yeah.
hard to compete with that. I'm sure that somebody we give a brief to somebody, and somebody can come with probably a better idea than we do. but we are in service of the business. And we have this motto that is win metal, move metal. Win metal in terms of or in terms of moving awards, but also winning coin. And move metal because all of our products are made of steel and metal, right? But so it's just that a little. If we move metal, we're gonna win metal, and if we win metal, we're gonna keep moving metal, right? So it's just like that whole thing that as a motto is really
Love
cool.
it. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today out of your busy day, and this has been a really enjoyable conversation. It's great to catch up with you.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. It's great seeing you. I heard you're gonna be here in April, so I hope we can go for a beer. I'll tell Molly and so we can get all to hang out for a little bit and give us a hug in person. But thank you for the invitation.
I'd love it. We'll do it.
I hope I didn't talk so much bullshit, and I thought you didn't fuck it up with this podcast by inviting me.
Thank you.
You're
making me look good.
It's been great.
Thank you, man. Well, we'll talk soon. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you.